Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Spears Andy Steinberg podcast. Right here with Spears.
How y'all feel out there?
Steinberg. What time is it? Game time. Hey, I wish there was a theme song for Florida like there is for New York and Chicago. Baby, won't you come on home to that sweet home, Chicago? And of course, start spreading the news. And then Jay-Z's thing in New York. There's nothing for Florida.
Yeah, there's no. Just didn't you do the CSI that was in Florida? Weren't you on that?
CSI Miami, yes. Yeah.
You could do their
theme song?
their music only.
Yeah. But I wish there was something that was really famous that was like a Florida theme song.
That just was about Florida.
Yeah. I noticed on the plane ride over from LA, direct flight to Orlando, this is a Florida thing, is all these niggas whose hairdos look like Kodak Black, which I think is atrocious. What a horrible hairdo. I noticed the youth, like coming up when we was coming up in the 90s, everything was late 80s, early 90s. We had the flat tops. I told you I had the Gumby. So every generation has their style. And I said, I noticed with these young kids, it's either the pineapple, where these young kids have all that shit that looks like a pineapple top, and the sides and the back are shaved, or they have the Kodak Black where they look like roaches. Either way, both of them were horrific. I'm just the oldest, bitterest nigga on the fucking planet.
I think the pineapple looks cool.
I think it looks so silly.
No, I think it looks good.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's a good look.
I just don't think it could fuck with what we had.
See, but that's how you know you're old now. Because now you're looking at what you had, and you're like, I always thought that the day that you start looking at young people and they're trying to do their thing,
and you go, ugh,
that made you old. Because when they were doing that to you,
right,
you were like, oh, that's just because you were old,
right?
So now you're old.
Okay, because obviously my father's youth was afros,
yeah,
and I guess for your people, it was either straight hair or you had Simon and Garfunkel with the white dude with the curly fro.
Everybody, if you have curly hair, everybody wants straight hair.
Right.
That's why everybody's always straightening their hair. I love curly hair. I hate when girls straighten their hair.
Right. All right. Whoever comes up with a Florida theme song has to make sure, because Florida's known for oranges. The hook just has to be something Florida, orange.
There it is. It's the orange.
The orange.
Dude, the thing that made me old was gauges.
Gauges?
When people start putting those big holes in their ears.
Oh, that like those weird tribalism
gauges, man. I can't. I think I just.
But is that a generational thing? That looked like something that's been around forever.
Yeah, but first of all, the small gauges that people started wearing, I didn't have a problem with those.
Right.
But when they started expanding their ear,
right.
I mean that it's been around forever. But I'm saying that's common now for people to have.
Yeah, I always thought that was disgusting.
Yeah, that just doesn't look right.
Right.
But see, that's why I'm old, because
right.
I recognize it. That's
right.
my age saying there's something wrong with
that. Two things I want to try and tackle on this podcast. We want to talk about a great documentary and a great movie. And Andy, I think we both just happened to catch it while we were in West Palm, because we had both watched separately. Andy was in his room. I was in my room. He said, hey, man, let's go get something to eat. And I was like, yo, Bill Maher's going to talk about the Dave Chappelle shit. I got to watch this. So he was like, yeah, I'm watching it too. But then it was over. That's when we went out together and got that horrible barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
But we were both late meeting each other down in the lobby because HBO showed a documentary we both didn't know was going to come on called 4 Hours. Was it called?
4 Hours at the Capitol. So
4 hours at the Capitol.
Yeah.
And of course, it was about it was a word, resurrection. What's that word?
Until you didn't say it, I would have been fine with it.
And I just totally.
Insurrection.
Insurrection, where the white people showed their whole asses
Don't forget, there's a few black people in that crowd. Very few, but they were there.
Yeah.
And you know that they took pictures of the black people there. When you watch the newsreel, they always show at least one black person just so that it's not all on
There's
us.
always a lost nigga in the bunch. And man, this thing was getting, like, I didn't know. Long story short, this shit was getting juicy, man. And I didn't want to leave the room, but I know we had to go out and eat.
It's already starting.
We ain't even got to the emails.
Yeah.
But then I said, Andy, yo, we got to watch this shit. So when I went home, I watched it. And I got a couple of notes and Andy watched it. So
it was actually very surprising and eye-opening.
Right.
Because the media did not cover it this way.
Right. All right. So you want to go first or do you want me?
I'll start. No, I want to hear your notes.
All right. I don't really have a lot of notes. And I want to, listen, man. God, here we go. Let me say first, as I begin to say what I'm going to say, to all our white listeners. What up, Timmy Doyle?
Sage.
You know I love you guys. You know I do. But sometimes as a black dude, when you watch certain things and you know the history of this country and you just see certain things that you know historically, these pieces when added up together led to horrific shit in terms of our demise. Now, even though this wasn't that, some of those same ingredients still exist. So sometimes, and I know I'm not the only one that does this. I know we're all guilty of this, especially in the privacy of our own homes. We think certain things we won't say out loud in public, whether they're right or wrong. You just feel that way at the time. So let me again say, I'm not saying all white people, but sometimes out of frustration and again, given the history of what has happened in this country with black people, I get frustrated and I'm going to have an out loud moment to y'all that I said to myself. Sometimes I just go, can we just please admit that white people, y'all have not all y'all, but just a track record and a history of just being violent. Like some of y'all, like it's in your DNA, destruction, mayhem, violence. And believe me, I'm walking on eggshells when I say this because I don't want white people to take from this. I'm saying all of y'all. But, and I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit because I have to. Once upon a time ago, I had a line in my stand-up where I would say, not all white people are racist, but as a race, you guys are known for racism historically. And that's when I made that quote on Vlad TV where I go, white people, y'all historically, y'all have pulled off the greatest mind trick, Jedi mind trick in history. You have convinced everybody that the black man is the boogeyman and the most dangerous man on the planet, but yet history has shown us y'all have a track record and a history of violence and murder that is unmatched. And you know who backed up my statement on that? Not like he did it personally, but he made the same exact statement that I saw Michael Moore. He basically said exactly what I said. And this is coming from a white guy. And it's just something about guns and the way y'all, with guns and the way you think and some of the verbiage that y'all use, which is in this fucking documentary, where you just have a very, yee-hoo. It's destruction. Y'all are violent, man. And I'm not saying other races are immune to being violent, but not on the level that y'all do it. Something about violence and that kick America, we kick everybody's ass. We got the biggest guns and the biggest dicks. You! It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
There's some confusion in what you said, though.
Well, help clear it up.
Well, when you say that historically,
yes,
from what you're looking at, white people have been in power.
Okay.
And power breeds this problem.
So you think that if black people were in power, we'd have the same kind of history?
Okay.
We a history of bombing churches, killing leaders, water hoses, dogs, slavery, oppression, lynchings, rape.
Okay, you
police brutality.
You gonna let me go?
Yes, I'm just asking.
What was your main thing months, a year over a year ago? What's the first people on earth?
Black folks.
When it was all black folks, there was no war, there was no beatings, there was no slavery, there was none of those problems.
Okay, I hear what you're going, but
no, because you can't say bombings and they didn't. Those abilities weren't there. We're in what I'm trying to say.
This
and
is where you're gonna get emails.
That's fine. Send me the emails. What I'm trying to say is, yes, historically, you are 100% accurate in what's happening in our time frame. But I'm talking about power and why power should be wielded in a different way. Power is what breeds these kind of ideas. Now, when we get to the United States, now we have another whole different conundrum as we speak about that. Because historically, white people were in power. They created this country. They created it to their own, what they even wrote, they went against what their beliefs to create this country. All men are created equal. And then they allowed slavery. Notice, though, this is how shameful it is. This is what people don't talk about. This is how shameful it is. You don't see anywhere in the Constitution anything about slavery. Because they know that it was against what they were talking about, what they were saying. So with this power, and this is what I'm talking about is power. When you have ultimate power, you do fucked up shit.
Let me ask you this, though, on that. And I know what you mean, but here's where I want to make sure we are clear on the difference. In terms of dictators, I remember my manager kept telling me, watch this movie, King of Scotland. You got to see King of Scotland, Forrest Whitaker. And I remember I don't remember the guy's name, but when Ali fought Foreman in Africa, whoever the top man there was, both dudes were known for doing fucked up shit to their own people. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm in terms of what America, white America, has done to other people of color. Whether it's, again, the wiping out of the Indians, we know the history with black folks, Asians put in certain camps, anybody that has melanin in their skin, that has melanin, historically, power white folks have kicked our asses.
Well, when you said that, though, and you said America, don't forget everybody who came over here that we consider white today, all those Europeans went through those same kind of situations. The difference is they were able to get property. They were able to make a career, make money, and pull themselves up. Black folks, if you put this to black folks and what America's done, I'm right there with you 100%. There's no denying.
Have you ever seen black people do what the white folks did at the Capitol? Would black people ever do that? No. When we cause destruction and mayhem, it's because we riot. And I forget that great quote by Martin Luther King, but I'm paraphrasing. A riot is something being caused by the unheard, the voices that are being ignored. So, and to me, this is simple math. Treat niggas right, and we ain't gonna riot. We riot because, of injustice and frustration and tired of being fucked with and killed and treated unfairly. Would black people ever do what those people did at the Capitol? No, it's not in our nature. Yeah, boys. Whoa, that's not in our nature.
When you said that about rioting, what's the missing ingredient that would cause someone to riot? Why would someone riot?
Fill in the blank.
Power.
So you think the black people that are rioting is because they want power?
No. It's the absence of power. That's the alternative. If you have no power, you riot because that's the only way to get the attention for what is missing. Listen, what you're saying, we're on the same place.
But here's where and this is where sometimes I feel like you get tricky with your words and how you maneuver. Because if black people had, and yes, in certain political positions, we want power because in those positions we can make change. I got that. But these riots, or anytime we've been rioting, it's not because we want power. We want equality. We want justice. We want not to be killed.
I didn't say you wanted power, so there's the absence of power.
Okay, but when you go the absence of power.
I can explain the absence of power a lot quicker for you if you let me do this real quick. When there was a 1 Million Man March, where did you see the power structure was? Where was the power structure? There was lined up rows and rows of anti-riot police. There was military, all on the Capitol. Remember that?
Right.
The power structure placed that there, right? When you go to the Capitol and you go to the 4 hour, the documentary we were looking at, where's the riot police? Where's the military? Why aren't they there?
Why aren't they?
Power. The white community had the power. This is what we're looking at, this power structure, this dynamic. This is why white people can get away with it, because they have this, they're sided, they come, and this is where when we say that white privilege comes with some power.
Okay, I agree with that. I see that. I hear that.
That's all. I'm not saying what you're saying something that's untrue, but to get to a resolution, that's why it's so important, this power dynamic and people understanding that what privilege is. And privilege is basically another way of saying somewhat power, because you have power. And as long as you wield that power unreasonably, but on the other hand, what is reasonable power over another person? There shouldn't be that.
Right.
So this is what I'm saying. Careful, because when we talk about it, historically, people who had power have always wielded that over the people who haven't. It's from the beginning of time.
Okay.
Now, if you want to talk about the United States, this is a whole nother conversation. I'm just talking about power and that dynamic.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the United States.
Okay, let's talk about the United States then, because now we're back to this thing right here. Yeah.
Like there was one point where, as the guys were all marching to the Capitol, one dude said, "We're the new police." Like that mindset. Technically, you're not cops. You didn't go through the training. You're not technically in a cop. You don't have the badge. You might have the gun. You don't have the badge. You don't have the technical authority. But that attitude, we're the new police, as y'all are all marching down to the Capitol to cause destruction and mayhem. That's barbaric thinking.
Well, okay, now I agree with what you're saying, but what person? And this is where we're going to go back and forth on this. You saw how many people were out there. How many people were there to say that they felt there was something wrong with the election, regardless whether it was right or not? That was their feelings. That's what's been presented to them. And how many people were there to do damage, riot, and break into the Capitol? Because you saw how many people were out there. They weren't all in the building. They didn't all follow. Some people were actually there. There was a lot of ex-military, ex-police. There's people there that weren't nor your normal rioter type of people. So what caused this?
Okay, but before we get to that, all those people that were there that didn't storm the Capitol, who were simply there to, as you say, express how they felt, when they saw the people trying to get into the Capitol and acting crazy, did the people who weren't there to cause chaos and mayhem try and stop it?
Well, I would say, I have to say no, because obviously they got in, but there was a lot of
then
people.
Then you're just as guilty.
But there's the people who were behind. You saw that they were way behind what was going on in the front.
So they didn't know what was going on?
Some of them didn't, because even the people inside the Capitol didn't know what was going on.
So with their cell phones that in real time they can see these events, they didn't know?
Like, did you see how many people dispersed after that started? Like look, if you go back and look at the footage, it starts getting smaller. I have
not small enough to where the people that are breaking in outweighed the people who were there that didn't do anything.
But let's go to that part. Why aren't they there? Why aren't the military? Where's the military presence?
I know why. You just said it.
Okay, but that's the bigger part to me. Why were they there in the first place? And then now we have to go to what's happening. And that they didn't even get covered in this documentary because that's a whole nother. It's a whole nother piece to this. When the police officer in this video, and I forgot his name, the one who got beat up, and he's been on a lot of interviews. He got dragged out, beaten, tased.
Right.
Eventually, some people were willing to stop what was happening to him and got him back inside. But after a huge fucking ass beating, like he could have died easily. He was tased in the back of his neck. He said that he still has a heart problem from it.
Right.
So there were people there, but what happens to people that? And this is where I agree with you when I start talking about America. There was a lot of what you have used as you described it. Woo!
Right.
And I don't think those people are good for anybody because they're not acting out of some kind of area of intelligence or even I would like to say anger. They're there because they're enjoying what they're doing, which is different. They weren't angry about the election. They don't think that they got the right. That the right person votes were their votes were eliminated. That's what they keep saying as they're marching, that their votes were taken away from them.
Right.
They were there because they were enjoying what they were doing on that Capitol. And they were enjoying it because they came in, they sat down and took pictures. They weren't there for messaging. They were there as, and that's not all of them. There were some people that were there I think that had some really bad intentions. They found pipe bombs. This wasn't in that video either, though. They did find pipe bombs. They showed pictures of people that had, what are those things called? Those wire ties where you can actually handcuff someone with those plastic zip ties. Right. They found there was people in the crowds that had zip ties. We don't really. The worst part is the intent of what they had. We don't really know if that was to actually kidnap or take anyone. But why did they have them wire ties then? And my other question though is, if these people were really the people that we should worry about, wouldn't they have had more of a mapped out plan once they got inside? That's the one thing that bothers me about this, because they never were able to get to the Senate floor when they weren't able to get to the floor when they were actually in a session.
Right.
They got there afterwards because they didn't know which way to go. There's still a lot I would like to know about this, and I think this is too fresh because I had no idea that a lot of this stuff that went on because this didn't make the news that same way.
Right.
I think 5 years, 10 years, we're going to learn a lot more about what actually really happened that day.
As they were showing Trump, and of course, without getting too deep into Trump, but to make the point, this is reason 1080 why I couldn't stand Trump. Because he did the most coward thing ever, where he sat there and he said, as he gave his speech, we need to march down to the Capitol and I will be there with you.
Of course, I'll be there with you.
And so
how he said it, of course.
And then so often it reminded me of like that scene in American History X after Edward Norton gets out of prison and he basically goes to tell the leader of the KKK group or skinheads or whatever, Cam, that Danny is out. My brother is out. You leave my fucking brother alone. And then Cam was trying to tell him, calm down, whatever. And he called him on his shit and said, no, I know you're bullshit. You've never done time. What you do is you stir people up. You have them commit your crimes, and then they do the fucking time, and you just don't do anything. And I can't remember the name of the documentary. There was another great documentary on HBO about the Klan. But that seemed to be something that was consistent. Whoever the big wig is, whoever the guy that calls the shots, he's the mouthpiece that stirs up the emotions and that pushes that rhetoric forward. But when it actually comes time to get their hands dirty, they stay hidden. And that's what that reminded me of with Trump. Like, you fucking coward. You started this. You got these people riled up. You told them what to do. You knew that all they needed to do was hear it from you. At least have the balls to do what you said and go with them. But you didn't.
I think it's deeper than that. I think it gets much deeper than Trump. I think that he is a catalyst for a lot of what happened, if not all of what happened. But there's other people that are pushing there's some other agenda because... first of all, Trump was still on stage. They said it was 20 minutes before his speech ended. And this was already starting to happen at the Capitol. That I didn't know that it happened that far ahead of time. So they were already plotted and planned. They were there.
Mm-hmm.
Something interesting that was said in there, and I have to hear it, and I have to ingest that idea that just because someone's wearing a Trump hat, just because someone is wearing the shirt or the American flag, how do we know this isn't more nefarious than this? How do we know that there wasn't instigators to make this happen outside of Trump?
You talking about to make that moment at the Capitol?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be even this country.
So if that's true, then you can take Trump out of the equation and say that it was going to happen regardless.
You could, but no, because Trump stirred this up prior, because he kept calling to the election and that the big, what is he called? The Great Steal or the Big Steal or the
whatever he called it. The big steal.
So he had them riled up about that. So this is a perfect time for people who might not be fans of this country, not necessarily Donald Trump, not necessarily the Democrats or the Republicans, just America. That's an awesome time to come in where you have presidents and congressmen and media force calling for this kind of action to stir this kind of thing up, to where they can initiate and bring this to fruition. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying when that was said in this, that there was something that you have to take a look at, because we still have Russia. You still have whether Russia. We do know that Russia used Facebook and other areas to undermine election or try to undermine our elections. We do know that we're not that we don't have a worldwide appeal, and there's other countries that would like to see nothing but America go down. An insurrection where, and I love one of the parts that I love about this documentary is where the congressman says we can't leave, we can't get in those buses, and he called everybody because when you leave in an insurrection, that's the coup. They win and stayed. There's a lot of things that could have went. When I saw the actual footage, I was like, this could have went completely different, and we're minimizing this. This is actually a bigger deal. I minimized it. I didn't realize it was this big of a deal. I thought it was a bunch of people that were Trump heads. And this is why I'm saying I don't like just putting this on Trump, because I thought it was a bunch of people that are Trump heads that were going to do whatever they were going to do his bidding, and they were going to go there and they were going to cause this problem. They broke the windows. They walked into the Capitol. They sat at desks. They took mementos. They're carrying around bullshit. They didn't look like an orderly type of a coup event, but there were some people in there that you saw that were definitely not part of these bumbling guys that were just Trump heads.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I'm not saying I'm right.
But when you say, I think it's beyond Trump. To me, when it comes to this and that moment, you might be right. But unless you can really present me with something to back that up, to me, it's just a thought. Unless you can show me who the guys are behind the curtains controlling the strings, okay, that's a theory. What I know, what I saw, what I feel, what I touch, and what I could taste was Trump telling them to do just that, being the flame to that fucking fuse. Again, I hear what you're saying, and Russia, and you could be right. It's some of it makes sense to me, but what I saw was Trump.
Well, without a doubt, I see Trump there too. I'm just saying, is there some other footprints there? But
unless you present that to me,
I'm just asking the question. Trump definitely was, I think, in charge of the Trump head. He was 100% in charge of the Trump heads, because when he finally put out the video, way too late, and told them to go home on tweets, go home. We love you. You're great America. Whatever he said to them, which they have that in detail in what he said.
Right.
They went, okay, well, it's time to go home then. So you cannot not put that on Trump. That's Trump.
Right.
But these other actors, I'm just asking these questions because those people that when they got their text message, they were like, you saw the guys. The proud boy that had to be carried down on his scooter.
Oh, and that motherfucker! I got one note for him.
You want to do that note right now?
Yeah, and that's really my last note. And this ain't really anything of any real significance, but when he goes, yo, I named my dog after Trump. And I just thought to myself, you pathetic, no pussy getting, wheelchair rolling cocksucker. Like you are, and I'm not trying to shit on you because you're in a wheelchair. Your predicament is your predicament. But it's like you could look at this dude and tell you gets no pussy. And the fact that you would name your dog after Trump, the amount of loyalty and love you have for that piece of shit to where you would name your dog Trump and you're in a fucking wheelchair, you look like a hobbit. Nigga, I know you don't get no pussy. What a pathetic thing to do. The amount of loyalty towards this man who wouldn't give you a second look on the street.
That's the part. That's the part right there. That's the part. That's the part that gets me more than any other part. These people that I'm referring to as Trump heads,
right,
that just would do whatever he said. Trump wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire. He would be offended by that guy saying that. I could guarantee you that's offensive to Trump that someone would name a dog after him. A dog after me?
Right.
I'm the greatest president ever.
I'm the greatest human being ever.
And you're going to name a dog after me?
Right.
Come on.
Right.
So I have issues, but outside now we go to the Trump heads, and I brought up how there could be this other like nefarious actions or actors available.
Right.
But now, what about the people who were former military? What about those people? Those are the people that I have some. I don't want to say that I'm okay with what even going to the Capitol. They should have been smarter not to fall for that. But here's my problem with it. There is a part of this that it was never, when they were saying the steal, the other side, the Democratic side, is so afraid of Trump that they couldn't have said, yeah, we're going to investigate this because if there's ever a problem, because this is where they could have taken the high road because they said that there was a problem with the election when Trump won. They said, hey, we've had election concerns since Trump. We're going to investigate this to make sure no one is influencing our election. We want to have an open forum, but they didn't. They just made it, they wanted to minimize what he was saying. I don't think that I would have went that way, honestly, because you did bring out a certain faction of people that I think had the right to feel like their vote would counted, and it was counted, and it was handled correctly. I know that when you hear today saying that Biden won hands down, there was not even close. It is closer than that because there are certain swing states that it was smaller votes. But I still would, with what information I have, Biden won. But there was no reason why they couldn't have said, yeah, we're gonna investigate this further. We're gonna make sure that we clean up our. They could have the Democrat. Here's what I can say: the Democrats could have taken the lead on voter reform and made sure that they did the investigation and brought it out. They let the Republicans make this part of their messaging. And now look at all these fights that we're having around the country with this aggressive reform that is putting that some of it. And this is where I'll get more letters. What's going on with some of these laws? I mean, in New York, it's more the laws are tougher than what people are fighting in other states right now. But I understand that isn't what we're arguing. Let's argue it correctly. They gave that to the Republicans to do that. If the Democrats would have picked that up and said, we've been saying this. You're not the ones that start this. We said this in the last election. If there is voter fraud, let's get to it. Let's pick this up. We're going to do what we can do to fix that. But they had the person that they wanted, and they dropped the ball on that. That's what I would have changed. That's the one thing that I would have really went after that when I'm listening to this, how I would have handled it different.
And let me just straighten this out a little bit because, obviously one of the first things that they went to during the opening of this was, I can't remember which guy it was, but I think it was the first guy they showed who was one of the officers that worked the Capitol. And he basically said that in terms of what he went through and what they put his, what do you call somebody who's on the same level as you that works with you? My, goddamn, colleagues.
Sorry, I don't know.
What they put his colleagues through, he said in a very understandable amount of frustration, yo, I would love to fuck them dudes up. Like, so I'm saying that to say, again, I don't want people to take from it that I think all white people are, because clearly this is a white man who felt like kicking the asses of those white guys who fucked up him and his colleagues, and who obviously doesn't come from a place of that kind of thought and behavior. So again, I know not all white people. I'm not saying all white people. I know there's some white people that were appalled and thought that shit was wrong and would have been on the side of right and would have loved to whoop some of them dudes' asses. I'm just saying again, while I'm sitting at home and I'm watching this, and I'm just going, this is the same kind of behavior and mindset. We're the new police. We're going to make things right. Yoo-hoo. With destruction, mayhem, take shit over. It led to a lot of niggas hanging from trees, man.
Without
and a lot of black people getting fucked up. So my first thought and instinct was just, Jesus Christ, white people just in this, so many of them in this country have a history of just violence and rage and it's owed to me and I can and I will. And I'm like, shit. So I don't know. I had a private moment out loud.
I think that's fair when you're watching this happen. You're watching the people who have it, because I guess my biggest problem with it is not only that it happened, but that it was allowed to happen.
If black people had done that,
you wouldn't be able to do it,
and we'd get shot to death.
You wouldn't be able to do it. That's why I say it's such a power dynamic. It's not just, you could easily say black and white. Yes, you can. But it's about that power that when it's a 1,000,000-man march, we're going to secure this perimeter.
Right.
When it's Trump heads coming out to protest the election results, it's just white folks. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's the power dynamic. That's the thing that scares me more than anything else.
If it scares you, I'm terrified.
Yeah. It scares me because when I watched it, I really thought it was Trump heads. When I saw this documentary,
right,
I really feel there's a little bit, there's some other things that we're going to find out about later. But going back to a little bit, just before, real quick, when you asked me, did they try to stop it? When you saw those people breaking in, those guys are going, well, they started going in. We just followed them. These are idiots. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, so those are the same people that your mom said to you. So if you see someone jump off the bridge, you're jumping off the bridge.
Right.
They jumped off the fucking bridge. They didn't have parents that told them not that same stupid thing. Right. I still don't understand. I cannot understand at all. Just if you're the person that you feel you need to march because your rights have been taken away, and you're going to a sacred building that would be sacred to them, right? That the building must be sacred to them because they're willing to put their lives on the line for this, right? But you're going to break in, you're going to topple things over, you're going to sit in desks. There was the one guy that said, "Hey, that's not your seat, that's the seat." And he said, "Well, it's our seat. We're
right. It's owed to me."
But the other dude said, right. No, that's not. That's the Speaker of the House's or the Vice President's seat. That's not your seat. So there were people that understood, but what were they doing in there then?
Let me ask you something. If they had truly gained access to Mike Pence and some of those people in the building, what was it, Nancy Pelosi and some of those people they were looking for, do you really think they would have physically hurt them or killed them? Seriously? All on camera, all would be proven through camera phones, cell phones. Do you really think they would have went, I'm going to risk going to jail for life because I'm going to murder Mike Pence or Nancy Pelosi?
The Trump heads, I don't think so. But this is why I go back into what I said. Who were all these people that you see that they're catching and they're going to? Where are the pictures of the people that they caught? That you saw pictures with people with the zip ties, with military equipment. Where are these people? Why aren't they being caught? Who are these people? And what was their actions? Why were they in there? They were different than just the woo guys. They were different. They were either ex-military or military from somewhere else. Listen, you're
saying their agenda wasn't the agenda of the Trump heads? They had a different one?
I think the Trump heads' agenda was exactly what you said. Woo! There's another entity going on in this. When I watched that, there was something else going on. Those people now the Trump heads were dangerous. Don't get me wrong. When they're battling and pushing back, and they got 40 cops trying to hold the that tunnel, yeah, that's a problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem, but the people that had weapons, the people that looked like they came to kidnap somebody, that's different. Those are, and where are those people?
And then, like, you know, when the guys that were trying to hold the tunnel, like that one officer who was getting crushed.
Yeah.
And you heard him go, ah! Like, I'm going, I know he would love to whoop them people's asses. That wasn't, he could have lost his life there. So that's why, again, I'm saying, I know not all, you know what I mean? I just, you know.
But the other thing that you didn't bring up in the notes that I would like to bring up, dude, the people, the Capitol Police, and I'm not going to remember his name, and no one's going to be surprised I can't remember someone's name, but the black dude that led them away.
Yeah, right.
And led them,
black dude, yeah.
They could have pulled out his gun, could have shot somebody and tried to disperse him that way. That would have been a whole other situation.
But I think had he done that,
it would have turned into,
they would have killed him.
No, it would have turned into an all-out bloody riot. I think they would have went after. They would have, because I don't know. And this is where, listen, this is all conjecture. I don't know. But when, and I wish I could remember her name because she did die right there. She was the one who did get
Bobbitt.
shot. Yeah. They moved after she got shot. They knew that they were going to shoot, but they had some protection. They had that wall. They had a little bit of space, and they had to protect the Congress people that were behind that wall. So, but they did disperse after that. So who were those people?
I would never condone someone's life being taken. But the attitude she had, the yelling, the red face, and blah, 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 it's one of those where it's like, hey, sweetie, you not saying I felt any satisfaction, but I'm like, yo, you brought that on yourself.
Well, she was climbing up and through, and if they would have lost that, that's what they're saying. If they would have lost that last barrier, then there's no protection. So
somebody had to be the example. Get back.
And then it did get back. So, but like I said, they had a little bit of a barrier. They would know that they could have taken out more, but they also had machine guns. Some of the Capitol Police that were there. I don't know if they were Capitol Police. They could have been the regular police department, but you did see some people that had some more militarized gear.
Right.
They could have done different things, but I don't know. This is a very unique situation. My problem with it is, again, going back to the very beginning that we said, had this been, and to go along with the beginning statement of what you said, had this been black folks coming to the White House, there's no way it would have been an unsecured area. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. Why was this area left unsecure? And that's what to me, that's the biggest question that there is.
That is mind-blowing to me. That is mind-blowing to me.
Because they're saying there was...
We are treated like we are such the threat, but history has shown us what the truth is. And yet and still, we are treated like we are the threat. That is amazing.
And when the Million Man March occurred, it was left clean. It wasn't left dirty. They picked up. I'm saying this, and there was a strategic military presence for that.
Right.
Where was it for this? And I'm not, and listen, and to my first point is, I'm saying it is power, but let's be honest of what the power is in this country.
Right.
That's my, and so when you're sending me those letters, make sure you include all that when you're sending them to me. That's where this dynamic is a problem here in this country.
I'm done. I don't have any more.
Yeah,
notes.
I want to be done with that too. I'd rather talk about the movie.
Five Bloods. And I remember at one point, this was the Five Bloods was recommended to me. And I finally checked it out. The Spike Lee movie about the brothers that go back to Vietnam to retrieve the hidden gold. And I remember I just recently read on the emails where somebody had said about Private Ryan. And this is why I'm telling you people, I can't watch war movies. The squeamishness. I can't. Like they and it's very interesting. Spike Lee opens up the movie where he's playing some Marvin Gaye. He's showing black and white footage of actual real-time war events mixed in with real video footage, moving footage. And I had always seen that picture of the Viet Cong guy who gets shot right in the head. It's Baby Mama.
Who is it?
I'd always seen that picture. God damn it. Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry. Steve, we're going to cut this out. Hey. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll text you. All right. Baby Mama, one of the bitches. I'd always seen that picture of the Vietnamese guy getting shot, but that's where it stopped.
Yeah.
It was just
you saw a little explosion.
A little explosion to the temple, but then they showed a real footage of what happens continuing, where his body hits the ground and the blood is pouring, leaking.
Because his heart's continuing to pump.
Right, out of the side of his dome like a water fountain. And I was like, Jesus. Then the shots of the Vietnamese kids and the women running with their skin having peeled off their bodies. I can't do it, man. I can't. War movies, man. That shit, that's too much for me.
But and make sure that you explain this to the people correctly too. That's the actual footage that you saw.
The actual footage.
But even if it was
Hollywood,
you still don't like that footage.
Nah, yo. I can't do it, man. And here's the thing. It was a great movie. As I'm sure Private Ryan's a great movie. And most war movies are great movies. But dude, that's too much. That's too much realism for me. Even if it's fake realism.
I've kind of had a lot of war movies, and I was kind of didn't want to watch this because of what it was.
Right.
But I always liked Spike Lee movies, and I was mad that I didn't see it once I saw it because it's a good movie.
Yeah, and there's some things that he does very well in terms of telling the story, but implementing certain truths that either you knew already, or if you didn't know, you needed to know. Before I even get to that note, I want to ask you a question. Is Spike Lee one of the greatest directors up there with some of the top tier directors? Rob Reiner, Martin Scorsese.
His is a little different because he writes or is involved in the.
But does it seem like when people talk about the great directors, I've never heard one black one mentioned. And a lot of these black directors have either come and gone, like the Hughes brothers. I think those are the twins that did Menace to Society. I'm trying to remember the comedy brothers who did House Party, and they don't really do anything together anymore.
Howland? Hewlin?
I don't remember their names. Before he passed away, John Singleton F. Gary Gray.
Yes.
But to me, Spike was always the bigger dude of the bunch. But even then, my point is, you never heard his name mentioned with some of the top tier white directors. And part of me wondered, was that because, and listen, I think Spike has done maybe a couple of movies that weren't race-based, but pretty much all his movies, 95%, are based in race. And I'm wondering if that had something to do with it.
They're all based in the culture, though.
Yes, the culture.
Yeah. And the only reason I'm saying that is I love some of those movies because those gives people that are not part of the culture a glimpse into the culture.
True. But to be considered a great director, it's almost like, but what else can you do?
Well, but
and if that's all you do, is that what's keeping him from being mentioned with some of those other guys?
What is Scorsese's?
And pardon me, I'm only saying that because the white directors, except for Scorsese, and I know exactly where you're going to my note, but those are the white directors, don't have to explain to you their culture. We already live within the white culture.
Yeah.
But Scorsese, I'm going, lot of mob flicks,
and
a
he
lot of
gives
Italian
you the
shit.
window. He gives you the window into that life,
Right.
like Spike does. But why isn't that same? One of the things though, Spike is very you can tell it's a Spike Lee film.
Oh, you mean the part where the guys are standing still but moving slowly forward towards the camera?
That's it. That's a signature shot.
Right.
But Spike has an aesthetic that is Spike's, and I think that's what makes part of what makes a great director when you can look at them and see the influence that they have on that movie.
Okay.
But I don't know why he doesn't. I think he gets named. I think he's. Do you know any black director that's more famous than Spike Lee?
No, that's why I said he's the dude.
So, but you're talking Academy Award. Well, let's go back to what I said about power.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the structure of power in the movie industry?
Yeah, I get it. Yep. But when your body of work is so good that it supersedes that. Not saying necessarily the power, but you can't be ignored. You have to be mentioned with that group. Like Spike just recently won an Oscar, and he's been doing this for decades.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Right.
But again, I go back to that power structure. Very few people work past the power structure.
Right.
Your favorite is the one that comes to mind all the time is the working past the power structure.
The actor?
No, just life. Jordan.
Yes.
That's how good you have to be.
Anything shy of that?
You still, then you're Spike Lee.
Right.
I'm not agreeing with it.
Like that moment where Spike Lee, within the story, has the Vietnamese woman who works at the radio station talk about black men. Why are you in this war? Look how they treat you at home. You don't belong here.
It's one of the greatest.
That was awesome.
And that's one of the greatest scenes in the movie when that gets broken down that way, because that broke down race, power structure,
right?
In one of the, and this is where I think he is a genius. That was a very simple in the movie. How many times was she in the movie?
Couple.
That's it. For how long?
Right.
And that's really in a teeter-totters, there's that balance in the middle.
Right.
She's the one that kind of really makes that movie make sense, because she's the whatever side, I don't even know the sides, because it's all Vietnam, but she's on the Ho Chi Minh side,
right,
and explaining and breaking it down and why are you there? What happened?
Well, I would wonder, because I'm sure there are some really radical black dudes who would say that a black man don't belong in no war. Don't fight this. But really, the Vietnam War was the war, especially what was going on in the country racially at that time. Black man don't fight this white man's war. We're not even getting the treatment at home by our government and white people that we deserve, but you dying for this white man's war. Now, flash forward to 2021. Whatever wars we've been in lately, or whatever wars we may go into in the future, do you still view it that way? If a black dude goes, I'm going to fight for my country and I'm going to fight in this war because I'm a citizen and this is my country. Obviously, we're not in the 70s and we're not in the Vietnam times, and things have drastically changed for the better, even though we're still not perfect. Is that attitude the same? Are we fighting in a white man's war?
Depends on the war. What are you fighting for? You know, like when, and it also changes. In 9/11, there was Americans after 9/11. We became America after 9/11 for about 72 hours.
I know you're being funny, but you're right. But it was longer than that. But I know what you're getting at. Yeah, it was quick.
But that's, it was an attack on all of us. It was an attack on America. It was an attack on, and we were there. We were there, all brothers and sisters, and we were there and then we went and started wars in places that didn't necessarily make sense.
Right.
And so now the question is, who was that war for? So, yeah, I still think it holds weight today. But I think that, again, going to a power structure, when you have a military, what has the military done for the most part? Obviously, it protects and it's part of what. But who was in the military? People who. Donald Trump didn't go into the military and become a military officer and stay in the military for his whole life and his career.
Right.
Who comes up? Who comes up out of the military? Usually, people that need a come up, not our great Americans, not the. So again, and I hate to keep doing this because this is what we're talking about today. It's power structure again. I think that some white folks are going to have to take some lessons from black folks here, and when we have wars, and they're going to have to come out and start saying that this war shouldn't exist.
Right. And this is where I go. Thank God for Spike Lee, because of all these war movies that we've seen, Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket, Saving Private Ryan. I know there's a lot more. What was the one I said? Apocalypse Now, but wasn't there another big one in that era, in that time, 70s?
Yeah, there was tons of them, but I don't remember. It's me.
Okay.
You want me to pull it up?
No. I don't need that to make the point. Of all these war movies, why hasn't any director ever gone, let's tell the black experience from that? If it wasn't for Spike Lee, I've never seen it in any war movies where they go, what about the black perspective of that? So yeah, thank you, Spike Lee. Well, and the fact that Hollywood, which I don't give a shit. I just don't give a shit. Y'all don't think that story needs to be told?
And this is why this is one of the things about Spike that's, he makes a movie that's for the culture, right? He makes a movie that black people will come out and see and appreciate for the most part. I mean, not all black people like Spike Lee. I get that. I'm just saying his movies are based on an idea that he's making these for the culture. But that woman explained and broke down to white people who might be watching the movie exactly what part of the problem is. When she gives the numbers that you're only 11% of the country of the United States, but you're 30. What was it? 34.
I didn't know that.
But
right.
This is what Spike does. This is why Spike is a genius on how he presents facts. There's one thing when someone comes at you and said, well, do you, when you watch the news and some black dude comes out on the news and says to white America saying, well, we're this part of the percentage and we have this and this, people tune out. They didn't tune out when she did that. Spike made them tune in, listen to it, absorb that, take that in.
Right.
I think that's, again, I give him a lot of credit for the movies that he's made. I mean, Do the Right Thing. I mean,
that's the pinnacle.
But he explained a story.
Yeah. Many stories within a story. Right.
That still was made for the black community, but told a lesson to the white people. That's an art within itself. And I don't think he intends to do it that way. I just think it works out that way because he is a storyteller.
I think it's intentional.
I mean, it's intended, but I don't think that what I'm saying is he doesn't go, well, I have to make sure the white people know. He's making a movie for his community. And
I still think he's going, they need to know, so I'm going to do this too.
Because he's smart.
Yeah. I know the draft doesn't exist anymore, but if it did, would you say, you know what, I have to choose between jail and going to war? Would you go to war or would you go to jail? Because I would go to jail. I couldn't do that shit, dude. Nah. Mm-mm.
Dude, and I'll get letters for this. I almost think everybody should have to do 2 years in the military.
Shouldn't?
Should.
Even if it meant those 2 years was going to war?
Listen, I'm not subscribing to war. Mm-hmm. But what I am saying is I think it's unreasonable that a lot of people who are wealthy and come from certain families, they don't have an obligation like that. And I think everybody, I didn't think this when I was younger, but as I'm looking at it, I think it would be great. That line again, 11% and 34% of the military. Or it was 24%. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was double the amount.
Right.
How does the structure of a country that's still predominantly white get away with not being part of the military?
Okay.
If it's just,
So your answer to my question is you would go.
Again, it would have to be a war that I believe. It would have to be a war that I believe
Whether
in.
you believed in it or not, it's go to war or go to jail.
No, if you don't believe it, then you go somewhere else.
Nah, don't say somewhere else.
That's how it worked. That's how it worked. People went to Canada.
Jail.
People went to Canada.
So that's what you would do.
I'm not saying that. I said
Well, then nigga, pick what you would do.
if it was a war that I thought was just, if we were attacked, and
You would go.
Yeah,
If it wasn't, you'd go somewhere else.
probably go somewhere else.
Okay. And did people really have that choice to go somewhere else?
No, you don't have the choice to go to Canada. You go illegally. We just saw that whole thing with
Rick
James.
James.
Would spend his time, and we said it at the same time. By the way, whoever the dude is, that said, but he went to he left and hid out in Canada, and they found him and they brought him back.
And when they bring you back, do they take you to jail?
They can take you to jail. They can put you in the military, or they can give you the exemption.
I pointed this out to Andy. First of all, two things. Well, let me say this first. That moment when the one dude of the Five Bloods, of the Five Bloods, steps on the mine and he gets blown up. And I mean, his torso's gone. His both arms are gone. And he's just laying on the ground. And the one guy who's the medic of the Five Bloods puts him out of his misery, or the guy just dies. Then seconds later, Delroy Lindo's son steps on the mine. And they do this thing where they tie a rope around his waist. And several people, and by this time, the white people that were join him. And they pull his son off the mine at the count of 3 with this rope. And his son lives. And the medic, the brother of the Five Bloods, goes, God is good. And I went, what? So your man who got blown to C-3PO body parts, and then seconds later, because y'all saved the son, God is good? Where was God 3 seconds ago when this nigga was blown to nothing? That is insane to me. We don't have to get on a religious rant, but that don't make sense.
It made sense for the kid.
The guy was good for him.
It was good for him.
But he wasn't there for the other dude.
Maybe it was the dude's time to... That's a hell of a way to go. And the reason I'm laughing when you're describing this is I've been around Aries a long time, and I know how he gets when he talks about body parts blowing up or seeing things like that. And so I'm laughing not at the scene, but knowing Aries. So if I was laughing while he was describing that, I want you guys to know what it was. But that was funny to me when you as soon as you told me, I hadn't seen it.
Right.
But what's really sucks for me is that you told me about that part.
Right.
So when it happens, I'm almost laughing because I'm watching it and I'm like, ooh, this is gross. And I start thinking about you. And then I start laughing because I'm like, I know Aries is like, it's like probably fast forwarded to that part.
I didn't fast forward, but I was like, oh, Jesus.
Because they did a good job. He did. But this is one of the other things that I want to say about Spike Lee, though, too, that we didn't say. His budget. Spike makes these movies on a budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't a $200 million Five Bloods.
Right. Yeah, unless he's working with Denzel, the budget is...
But that budget, that movie got stopped several times.
So Malcolm X?
Yeah, because it ran out of money.
But then he made that second movie with Denzel with Jodie Foster, which, again, had nothing to do with race.
Yeah.
Yeah. How good is Delroy Lindo?
I'm sorry, but one of my favorite movies, he's in it, and he plays such a great character in that movie.
Who?
What movie? With John Travolta.
Get Shorty?
Dude, I love that movie. Dude, when he's proud of his pink bathroom,
right?
The way that he because Delroy Lindo is not a man that you would would have a pink bathroom.
Right.
It doesn't project that anyway, but he did in that movie, and I was like, damn, this dude is good. He's great.
Of course, I loved him in one of my favorite Mel Gibson movies, Ransom. But he played the lead detective. But where his performance really showed his ass was in Malcolm X as the pimp who tutors Malcolm X.
He
was great in that, man.
Dude, he's good, man. I like when he's in a movie.
Yeah. What'd you think about the relationship between him and his son?
It was very confusing until like the end when he gets the note. You knew that he always had good intentions for his son.
Right.
But it was very
the way he denounced him.
Yeah. In front of everybody.
Right.
But you kind of got it. The only thing I didn't really like about this movie, though, gold, you can't carry it. Those 4 dudes couldn't carry the whole thing of gold.
Yeah.
That was and that bag of bricks doesn't weigh as much as the gold.
Right.
But I mean, so what?
It's the movie.
It's the movie. And when the gold, you understand that the gold, the flood and washed the gold down, but then how'd they get the body is still kind of like the head still has the dog tag on it, and
it would
the
seem
torso's
like
there.
that was flat level ground.
So that might have been further down.
Down. The gold was
sliding
down the hill. So
I get it.
And this was my second part. Again, I'm not going to go on a religion tangent, but Chadwick Boseman, if Life is Unfair was a person, to be that goddamn good as an actor and have the movies he's been in, and then boom. Jesus Christ. I know life ain't fair, but God damn it. That moment where they explain finally how he died, and it was Delroy accidentally shooting him, and the way that Chadwick forgave him, and the embrace and the hug and the tears, that was a powerful moment for me, man.
I had problems with it.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why I have problems with it. And I don't know if this is the genius of Spike or if this is if it's just I've been programmed on how to see a death scene. It was so simple. At first, I was like, that was it? That was it. It just happened that fast. And you move on to the scene where now he has him in his arms. And I was like, wouldn't you slow mo something to
like make it movie dramatic?
Yeah. And then I was like, well, that's the genius right there, because he made this moment that you can't take back because it's that quick. It's that, and it took me a minute to catch up to why he did it that way. It took me a minute because it didn't have any dramatics in it. It didn't have
Delroy sitting on the floor with Chadwick laying in his lap and a bunch of crying and a bunch of, you don't die on me. You stay alive. Don't you die on me. And all that shit.
No, I'm more about the scene where he actually dies. How he just whips around fast. That scene's only, I'm used to like, if it was a Scorsese, I shouldn't say the name of a director, but I think even Scorsese, maybe not. But it's usually like, it goes into slow motion and you hear the voice and then you see the eyes.
It's dramatized.
Yeah, and then he turns around and then you're like, no, don't let it happen.
Slow motion. Yeah.
But it was true to life. You go to save yourself, you turn around, you throw one in your dude right there. He's going to die now.
Throw one in your dude.
But that's what, it's that fast. That's how life really is.
Yeah, it wasn't the, like I said, it wasn't the Lethal Weapon Danny Glover with Riggs in his lap.
And then that over dramatized.
Riggs, don't you die on me, Riggs. You don't die till I say you die. Roach, I'm not going to make it, Roach. I feel my heart beat through my fucking chest, Roach. Do me a favor. Give me a cigarette. Oh, you want a cigarette, partner? Okay, you smoke this, Riggs. You smoke this, Riggs. Oh, God, Roach. I can't fucking smoke. Steve, do me a favor. During that whole piece, give me the doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo. Give you the Lethal Weapon music underneath that. Coming out of that in 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I've been programmed to like movies like that. So when I saw it, I thought there was something missing. And then I went back and I rewound it and I was like, no, that's life.
There it is. All right. Any announcements you need to make before I?
Just real quick, where we're going to be when you're listening to this on Wednesday, that will give you 1 day to go get your tickets for Thursday at the Ontario Improv out in California. Yay.
2 shows Friday, 2 Saturday, and 2 on Sunday.
Oh, that's right. It's on Friday. I don't know why I have Thursday circled. Sorry. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The 5th, the 6th. So you got 2 days when you hear us on Wednesday. 5th, 6th, and 7th. That's right, because it's on 2 on Sunday. And then I'll be at Levity Live West Nyack on the 18th, and Aries on the 27th will be at Biloxi, Mississippi. And then somewhere in there, you guys are going to have Thanksgiving, and we're going to throw some episodes your way. But at the end of the month, if you've had enough of your family and want to get away, you can come out to Laugh Boston on the 28th and 29th. I believe there's 2 shows. Is it 2 shows each of those nights?
Shit, I'm assuming.
Yep. So, Laugh Boston. It's our first time. It's my first time there. Is your first time? Yeah.
And Laugh Boston?
Yeah, because it's new.
Yeah, new.
So, come on out, man. I'm really excited about going to Boston, though. I haven't done comedy there.
You have a nigger and a Jew there. You got a nigger and a Jew. Fucking spare ribs and gefilte fish. Mixed with a cheddar. All right. This is Gift of Gab. Instagram at GIFT_OF_GABB. If the song I believe is called If I Ruled the, I'm assuming world, but that's what's in the email. If I Ruled the. So enjoy. Steve, on a side note, if for whatever reason you can't play this, I'm going to send you a backup recording and email right now. I'm going to count into it. In 3, 2, 1. All right, coming up, this is Malco Jex. The song is called The Real Deal by Street Wolf. He failed to give me his socials, but what are you going to do? Some of you guys are fucking idiots. All right, enjoy. We out.
Thanks for listening to the Spears and Steinberg podcast. If you'd like to know who's responsible for this shit, well, it was hosted by Aries Spears and Andy Steinberg, produced by Steve Merrick and Anthony Holmes, executive producer, Big Papa, Robert Kelly, and Matt Klein-Schmidt for the Laugh Button podcast. For more information on where to find us on the internet, visit www.spearsbergpod.com.